Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. So, Joe Biden has been president for about a week and a half now, and understandably the media and establishment lovies have been just beside themselves with a strange kind of euphoria. Finally, they toppled the evil orange fascist dictator because, well, orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
And everyone knows that the way a fascist dictator is toppled is through an election for multiple parties and candidates in which every citizen of age has a right to vote, right? Anyway, the media coverage of Biden right from the inauguration was predictably sugary sweet.
Those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America.
Then there was stuff like this. I'm effing crying my eyes out right now. I can't stop. Oh my, do we need this? Let's do this, America. Thank you, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Repeat after me. I am not smarter than Joe Biden. I am not smarter than Kamala Harris. I am not smarter than Nancy Pelosi. I am not smarter than James Carville. But if I stand back and watch and learn, I will be smarter than I am. Why, yes, I am a 53-year-old woman who had a 60-year-old friend make a diorama of the inauguration so my Joe and Kamala dolls could be sworn in.
This goes on for 12 more minutes.
No more waking at 3 a.m. full of existential dread. Tonight we sleep like we used to when we were 5 and we fell asleep in the backseat of the car knowing that Dad was in charge and nothing bad could happen. Good night, America. In my fantasies, Pete and Chasten will have Kamala and Dougie over for weekly potlucks that Michelle O will crash with a bottle of wine and gossip, after which Dr. Jill and Joe bring the dogs over along with some homemade brownies to enjoy while they all sing karaoke.
That is so lame.
However, that's the media class, and as we know, because they keep proving it, the media class, with the exception of a few, generally has no idea of the lives of your average person. They are just joyfully wrapped up in the fact that their preferred candidate got the presidency this time. After all, the orange man was literally a fascist and a dictator and a bad. Certainly, that was the narrative that was baselessly pushed by most of the corporate media for the last 4 years. There was little, if any, serious analysis or critique of Trump's policies beyond the generic, "That's racist!" They barely reported on the previous administration's notable achievements like, to name a few, Middle Eastern peace deals, or record low black and Hispanic unemployment, or crushing ISIS, or prison reform, or the COVID vaccine, or the fact that Trump was the first president in modern history not to have started any new wars. The only narrative that made it through was the very false claim that he was allegedly a racist, white supremacist, fascist, incompetent buffoon who only won because America apparently has a white supremacist problem and also Russia. In short,
Orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
Orange man.
Orange man.
Also, side note, if you guys can hear kind of like a creaking noise in the background, that's not a technical problem, it's the damn crickets. It's summer in Australia, it's really hot outside, and at this time of the day the crickets are really loud and I couldn't film it at any other time. So just so you know, crickets, not technical problem. Hashtag Australia. Now, the fact that the media's reporting on the previous president amounted to little more than the rabid tweets of an hysterical undergraduate know-nothing social justice warrior and their unironically Marxist professors, needless to say, created a little bit of a monster, albeit a bumbling, doe-eyed, largely well-meaning one. This little monster is the low-information Biden voter, that unfortunate entity who doesn't usually spend a lot of time on politics, has only ever voted once or twice if ever, but given what they saw on TV and on Twitter and what all of their super smart and educated millennial friends told them, the orange man was bad, really bad, and the Democrats were good, really good, and they were going to unify the country by ending the divisive, hateful rhetoric and all of the orange man's terrible, harmful policies, whatever they may be. This voter has never really paid much attention to either side's policies because they just don't have the time, but they briefly saw some headlines on CNN saying that the orange man was bad, and CNN is like an official authoritative news source, so there's no way that CNN could be wrong, right?
Right.
I know the type, you know the type. They're the type who's only ticked the Biden box at the top of the ballot paper and left all the House and Senate candidates blank. They only know one thing, and that's Orange Man bad. And why would anyone need to know anything else? Anyway, unsurprisingly, given the 24 or so executive orders that Biden signed in his first week, we are seeing the beginnings of what many are calling Biden buyer's remorse, coming a lot of the time from these Orange Man bad, low information Biden voters who are shocked that they have been directly and negatively affected by the kinds of policies that Biden is pushing. But for the most part, it's not like they were lied to. I mean, Joe Biden has been very clear that he intended to do a lot of the stuff that he's done in his first week. He's either mentioned it explicitly, or anyone with general knowledge about Joe Biden, the Democrats, and their history and overall, vibe could have easily predicted it. And fortunately for us, a Twitter account has popped up in the last week or so called Biden voters posting their L's online. L's, of course, meaning losses, which has been lovingly documenting this buyer's remorse from low information Biden voters. And while I know that we all hate Twitter, if ever there was a reason to remain on the platform, this account is it. It is doing good works, and also it is so going to get suspended reasonably soon, I reckon, so let's all just marvel at it while it lasts. First and most obvious is the Keystone XL pipeline. Joe Biden has recently revoked the permit for the construction of the pipeline, which currently employs about 1,000 people and was set to create about 10,000 jobs in the near future. And yet, during a pandemic, Biden saw fit to can the pipeline, which killed those jobs overnight. Now, this was not in any way a surprise decision, though. Biden has been talking about canning the pipeline since early 2020, and he opposed its construction initially. He has always been anti-Keystone XL. But despite this, a number of Biden voters seem surprised and appalled at the decision. I'm just a girl, standing in front of our new government, so glad Biden is president and the fascist is gone, but so disappointed the Keystone Pipeline Connection project has been stopped because pipelines are safe and now dozens of workers are being sent home and now out of work. Now, of course, a number of unions have spoken out against the decision, as well they should. After all, their job is to protect workers' rights and make a stink when workers are treated unfairly, and they certainly did after the decision regarding Keystone XL. But here's the thing. All of those unions officially endorsed Joe Biden for president after he made it very clear that he was going to halt construction on the pipeline, and despite the fact that he has always opposed it. He stands with us, so we stand with him. #LeUna for Biden. Today, North America's Building Trades Union formally endorsed former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris for President and Vice President of the United States. We don't sit on the sidelines at the UA, that's why we're endorsing Joe Biden. On infrastructure, energy, retirement security, and union rights, Joe will make sure UA members have a seat at the table, and he'll help us win more work with good wages and benefits. So why on earth would these unions endorse Joe Biden and encourage their members to vote for him, even though he was explicit about his plan to can thousands of union construction jobs? Thanks for killing my job on the pipeline. You were a waste of a vote. I'd rather have Trump. At least I was able to work. Why did you vote for Biden? He said he was going to do this. Politicians say they're going to do lots of things. I didn't actually believe that he would cut out jobs. Well, it's quite simple, really.
Orange Man bad.
Then we have Biden's stance on fracking and the fossil fuel industry generally. Despite attempts by the media to insist that Biden had never planned to ban fracking, never said that, and of course some late-stage backpedaling by Joe Biden in the lead-up to the election, he very clearly stated a number of times early on that that was his intention, and also to transition away from the fossil fuels industry.
No new fracking. We are going to get rid of fossil fuels.
Well, what about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipelines?
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate.
Which is exactly what he started to do in his first week. He called a ban on fracking on federal land and also a 60-day moratorium on new oil and gas permits on federal land. That has huge consequences for jobs and the economy in places like New Mexico, where spending on things like education relies very heavily on the success of that industry. And yet, for some reason, New Mexico went blue. Very, very blue. And Biden was officially endorsed by organizations such as the Ute Indian tribe. So, What happens post-election? We see things like this. Your order is a direct attack on our economy, sovereignty, and our right to self-determination. This is even though Biden said explicitly, multiple times, that he would be banning fracking in at least some capacity and that he'd be transitioning away from the fossil fuels industry. I mean, really? How low information do you have to be? Then there was the tax issue. I hope they don't raise your taxes, but if they did, I told you so. Bro, you know it's only for those that make over $400K a year, right? Commerce Secretary nominee remains open to funding Biden's climate agenda with tax hikes on the middle class. I know I voted for Biden, and I still support the change, but God, his tax policies are hurting my soul. I said I was willing to pay the penalties for voting for society, but rather than money, but ouch is all I can say. And the identity politics / critical race theory issue, which, considering the fact that Biden explicitly appointed his vice president, Kamala Harris, based on her race and gender, should not be surprising when it pops up in his policy proposals. We voted for Joe Biden, and all this race stuff I am seeing on Build Back Better is making me feel ill about whether Joe Biden plans to discriminate based on race. It would be awful. Racism against any race, including against whites, perpetuated by Democrats, would lose our votes. So low information. I mean, like, where have you been? Then, of course, there is the rather big issue of the promised $2,000 stimulus checks for COVID relief. In the Georgia runoffs, for instance, both candidates campaigned on the promise of $2,000 worth of much-needed stimulus money via a check delivered pronto to constituents if they won their runoffs. Remember this? This is how the checks were advertised in the races that Biden explicitly said above would lead to $2,000 checks going straight out the door. Tell me, what number is written on the check below? But it turns out that by $2,000, Biden actually only meant $1,400 plus the $600 that had previously been doled out, which of course when added together equals $2,000. But the thing is, that's not what the public was led to believe. There was no mention of $1,400 anywhere prior to the inauguration. It was all $2,000, $2,000, $2,000. And as such, there is a hell of a lot of buyer's remorse. So you're just going to lie about the $2,000? Why did I vote for you if you lie? I swear, these politicians. I was on the ground and I knocked over 1,000 doors. At the doors I was literally telling people $2,000 checks, you can rely on this. I'm a man of principle and morals and I feel like shit. I lied to them. I was lying the whole time. I was lying to people who were relying on this. At the time I didn't know it was a lie. Where are the $2,000 checks? Promises were made. People were told checks were coming next week, 2 weeks ago. Democrats, please keep your promises. Now, admittedly, these Biden voters were absolutely lied to. This isn't the same as it was with the fracking and the Keystone Pipeline, etc. But anyone with a tiny bit of knowledge of Democrats and of Joe Biden will know that they are slippery as hell, dangerously swampy, and given their behavior over the last 4 years with the previous president, they are compulsive liars. It is dangerous to hold them up as saints. Why anyone was surprised at this turnaround is beyond me. Then, of course, there are the delicious, just general regret tweets. Less than a week and Joe Biden is making so many of us regret voting for him. He has turned his back on us, prioritizes South America, and lowered the stimulus check he promised. Every day since Election Day, I regret voting for Biden more and more. Like, I genuinely feel sick to my stomach about it. The more and more I learn about politics and the way this country works, the more I wish I hadn't voted at all. I mean, I did it to, try to protect LGBTQ+ people first and foremost, but I can recognize now that we were either way. What Biden brings is a false sense of comfort. Oh, Trump is gone, so now everything is good and normal again. We did it! No, we didn't. You know, I'm pissed. I worked my ass off to elect Joe Biden and Democrats last year. Keeping the filibuster in place and allowing Republicans to block our agenda is spitting in the face of every organizer who worked to elect these people. I knew I was going to regret voting for Biden, but I mean, I didn't think it would take less than a week. Now let me be clear. I am not making this video to gloat. Well, maybe a little bit, but I'm trying not to because people's livelihoods and well-being are very much at stake here. The people to blame for this mess are journalists. Their lies and agenda-driven false narrative creation have created the low-information Biden voter, many of which are genuinely worried right now at what their vote might have unleashed. And while thankfully they do have the midterms to potentially get themselves some relief, they are going to find it a very, very long 2 years. If you liked that video, please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave me a comment, and if you really, really liked it, then check out the video description for my Subscribe Star link and other ways you can support me.